Okay, welcome 6th, 7th, and 8th graders to our clay box making. You have received a box kit with about 6 different wall pieces in it, and these squares are what I want you to make your box out of. You're going to be making a small 4 by 4 inch box with a bottom and a top, and that's why you have 6 pieces. And then I gave you some extra clay here so that you can make your box top, so that you can lift the top off. And so I'm going to show you how to make one today. And we're going to start by having, first of all, lay out all your pieces and have them available. And then you're going to need slip, which is basically just clay and water. And you can see it's the consistency of a milkshake. So you don't want to get it too watery, that won't work. And you don't want to get it too thick, that won't work either. So it's got to be about the consistency of yogurt or a milkshake. The other thing you want is a fork like this. So the fork actually gives you a quicker opportunity to score with. So I'll show you what I'm going to do with that right off. So first of all, this will be our base. And so what I want you to do is just take the fork and you're going to scratch all the way around. This is a very easy way of scoring. The reason why you score, of course, is that the clay is so smooth that you, if you actually just use slip, sometimes it comes apart. And that's because clay has to be completely fooled into thinking that it's one piece of clay. And the reason being is because it actually shrinks. So you're going to go back and forth until you have something like railroad tracks or X's or something, and the more you do this, the more secure and sturdy your clay is going to be. The clay is very, very soft right now. It's not what we call leather hard. So this other one over here we'll leave completely alone. That will be the box top. Let's start to do the walls now. The walls are actually going to come in, and they're going to be pretty much like that, a little bit at a time. And we're going to build it. It's hopefully it will work just the way we want it to, but sometimes we don't always measure things the way they should be. So what I'm going to try to do is just work through this with you today. You need to score this end, and then I'm going to score this side too. This is a side that's going to touch another wall, and it's going to be very much like this. I want to scratch this wall right here where it's going to touch the other piece, and scratch it here. This is called scoring. And then we're going to take our slip and we're going to butter up one end of this, or wherever we scored, and we want to fill in wherever we scored. And when we do that, it starts to actually stick, just like glue. But to allow that, this isn't going to stand there very long before it actually falls over. It's already starting. So what I'm going to very quickly do is try to get 2 walls up. And once I get 2 walls up, I should have enough. So you're going to get about 3 pounds of clay. Actually, there's quite a lot of clay in making a clay box. All right, so now where I want you to see this, I'm going to start to move some of these pieces over so you can see better. I'm going to move this whole box right over. And whatever you do, be as patient as you can. This is not easy to do, but it's a whole lot of fun to do. So if this one here is going on over this one, then this one needs to go over this one, so that you have some sort of rhythm of how you're putting this together. If you just two ends, for example, if I were to do it like this, and then my shapes may not fit. So make sure you fit your shapes in so that they perfectly fit good before you actually score them and start constructing with them. It would be good to try to construct this whole thing in one class or one setting. All right, now I'm going to butter this up. And I realize I made the base too big, which means I'm probably going to have to cut the walls, the base, the top, a little smaller. So the top and the base were cut bigger than they should have been. And that gives me a little extra. So I'll make sure that you get that little extra too. And I'm going to be cutting mine off in a minute here. And you can see that this one is a little longer than this one. Just about 1/4 of an inch longer than this one. And that's where this one's going to go. This last one will go in here for a perfect box. So, in preparation for that, I'm going to scrape on the inside of this one. I don't know if you can quite see that, but it's the same kind of scoring. Then I'm going to score on the bottom. Then instead of scoring on the inside, I'm going to score on the outside of this one. And then this one will be scored on the inside, like this. And then on the bottom. So much quicker when you have a fork. So I'll make sure you all have one. And then, now it's time to butter it all up. So I'm using a liberal amount of slip, and I'm trying to fill in the holes of this, of the scoring that I did. So you don't want to skimp over it like that. You want to really fill it so that you're fooling the clay with the slip, which is made of clay, into thinking that it's one piece. That's a good way of looking at it. Okay, I want to make sure I have plenty of slip. I didn't have any on here. So here, 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 and I'm ready to put this whole thing together. Now that didn't take very long, but it does take a little patience. And you may have to alter things out, and this is why it's good to try to get it all in one setting. And I want you to make the box as perfectly as you possibly can. And this little piece right here, I'm going to cut off on the bottom. I really don't need it. And anything else that's sticking out beyond where it should be, I'll just trim with this and a toothpick or whatever I have. Even a regular knife can do it. If you have a plastic knife, I'll try to see if I can get you one of those as well. And then you want to just kind of seal the whole thing. You never want to pinch this because you want it to be the same thickness all the time. Now I have a box, so one of the things I want to do is to seam it and to also put snakes in each one of the corners, or what you might call little logs. And they're a lot smaller than your pinky. They don't have to be very big and cumbersome and gaumy looking, but what it does is it strengthens and fortifies your corners. So with that extra piece of clay, what I'd like to have you do is, whatever you have for an extra, is make 4 little logs about 4 inches long, like that. 3, 4 like that. I know I'm going to use that for the top, so I'm going to score that so I can have a little more clay. Okay, so I'll cut this off right here, and I'll roll this out as well. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to score a little bit on the inside of each one of these corners, not too much, but just a little. They're already kind of cut anyway, so you're going to add a lot of slip. just like that. Big brush loads of slip. And then you're going to put a log in each one of the corners by pressing in and cutting it right there. And you're going to get this half of the log to go into this side. And just make these really quick. And then you're going to get this half to go into this side. And what this does is it makes it very, very strong. Get your finger on the inside. And what tends to happen is that your corners tend to blow out a little bit, so be careful of that. We'll fix that in a minute. Then we get another snake, so I'm going to do all 4 of these, and we'll go on from there in a minute. Now, as you can see, the corners are starting to blow out a little bit because we've put in those logs. They just, you know, and they need to be seamed. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to seam up the sides with the flat of my popsicle stick and just make everything smooth and nice and round and nice. And this is also probably the best tool you have, this thing here, with your fingers actually going in and making a beautiful corner, smoothing everything out, making it as perfect as you want. Here's a corner that's completely blown out practically, well, almost. And I'm going to make that all belong as one piece of clay. And I'm making this as perfect as I can make it. Doesn't have to, art isn't going to be perfect, but it's really fun to try to make it as perfect as you can when you're doing hand-built clay. It's blowing out right there. Using my fingers to smooth out every crack I see and every crevice that needs to be filled in with clay, so it looks like a perfectly square box. Then I'm going to take the top and see if I can't fit this perfectly on the top. And that fits pretty perfect. I think I could cut off just a tiny bit of this. Once you start cutting, it's final. It's really hard to repair anything. And you know, I might need that extra piece, so I'm going to put it aside. And I'm going to put my box aside for a minute, and I'm going to build the top of the box. And what I want to do is create something of a floral out of this. So I have these, and what I want to do is something like this. Then I'm going to go like that. I want to make that to come to a point. And I'll probably do that on the other side too. Drawing into the clay is so much fun. It's drawing a line that you made that's going to be permanently into the clay. This is where my scoring will be, right in here. Then I'll decide that maybe right in the middle I will put these leaves. Gonna need plenty of slip to fill that all back in, and plenty of slip to fill all that in. And I'm going to make a leaf pattern by actually pressing down right there with my thumb and coming back just a bit, just to turn it a little. Then I'm going to add a little more here, actually a lot of it. And I'm going to make this come out right here. And I think I'll add a little bit of slip in between the two. So that it's like that. And it's really starting to look cool. I like the way it looks. And so that will go on the top of my box. And then I'll create a design on the outside. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Okay, so if you get to this place where you have a box top and you've made a box with all sides and it's held together pretty well. This is very, very wet, so everything is still malleable and moves. Then you get a B. This is a good grade. This is a very good job for that. I want to let you know how I'm evaluating. I'm evaluating how well you can actually put a box together by yourself. What kind of clever design you're going to put for the top. If you want an A, then you're going to have to come up with some research, like on the board here. This is Woodland Designs that I've chosen to do this box with. That's why I chose these two leaf shapes. And so the two leaf shapes are going to repeat themselves three-dimensionally, but I'm going to draw on the edge. And I'd like to show you that right now. So I'm going to show you how I do that, and then you may want to do your own research. If you do the decoration of the box, you automatically get an A because that's excellent work. Okay, so what I want to do is to take off the top just for now and let it dry a little bit. I would let it dry for a few hours or so, and then it will get leather hard a little bit. And during this time, you can spend an awful lot of time just designing what it is you want to draw on here. So if you're going for the A, which I'm hoping you all will, because it's the terrific fun part of this, is draw a design of some sort. You put it together, but I think it's better to do it when you actually, especially now that I'm doing it myself, I think it's better to do it as you're making your walls. So rather than spend an hour or so, I'm going to spend a few hours on this. I'm going to bag it up right now, so I'm going to show you how to bag this up, and I'm going to come back to it because you may not be able to do this all in one setting. So I'm going to do that right now. First thing you want to do is take a paper towel and put it in the middle. And fill that so that it will support your top, so that your top doesn't sink down so far. Like that. Just to support it. Then you're going to use a regular trash bag. I'll try to put one in your box so that you remember to bag these up, because you are going to need to bag them up even though you put them back in the box, because I like to have them dry very slowly. If they dry too quick, they tend to crack. So put your box off to the side. Find the bottom of the bag first. Now here's the bottom, just like that. Then do a couple of squirts. Not like that, but like that. Squirt some water in there, not directly on your project because it's wet enough and you don't want it to get it any wetter. You just want it to create a moist environment in there. And then bring this straight up and close it, being really careful to twist it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you're going to put a really good knot on this without pushing down to destroy anything. You're just going to pull up and create a knot so that that keeps moist. And then you're going to try to keep this in the box. You won't, if you at this point you're not going to be able to put the top on, but you can keep it in your box like that. And it shouldn't be all poofy like this, so I'm taking mine apart for a minute. I'll show you what I mean. It should not be poofy like that with a lot of air in it. So really what it should do, we should try to get as much air out of this as possible, like that. And sometimes it's just hard to get all the air out. We're not really looking for that, but if you can get most of it out, that'll be good. Now I'm not pulling down, I'm actually pulling up on that knot, because if I slip down I might crush everything I've built. And then I'm going to put this aside, and I'll be back to show you my finished project later. Have a great weekend, everybody.